This week on the 414 Live, we'll be discussing B2B lead generation and conversion, what B2B marketers are currently doing, the challenges they're facing, as well as what's working the best. I'll be speaking with Linus Gregoriadis from London Research, who is the author of the State of B2B Lead Generation report. It's a fantastic piece of research that will be of great interest to B2B marketers and sales teams. Linus will talk us through his research and give detail on all of the major findings, including how B2B lead gen is evolving, how the marketing function is changing, as well as what B2B leaders are doing differently to their peers. Good morning. Welcome to the 414 Live, the first of 2020 here on LinkedIn Live. If this is the first time you've joined us, welcome along, because the 414 Live is produced exclusively for you as a professional B2B marketer, whether you work in-house at a company or agency side. And what we promise for you, the viewer, each and every week is for you to expand and enhance your professional knowledge by interviewing and speaking with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing. And today very much is no exception, and we thought we'd kick it off with something very useful for the year ahead, because we'll be talking about the state of lead generation and a state of lead generation. It's a report that's been put out, and it's going to be of significant use to anyone within the marketing or indeed sales function. And to help give us more background and look into this report in more detail, joining us live from Hoxton in London, please welcome Linus Gregoriadis, Director of London Research. Linus, good morning.
Morning, James, and hi, everyone.
we got there, yes. So Linus, you're the Director of London Research, and you've spent a lot of time putting together this report, which is looking into the state of B2B lead generation. Could you give us a bit of background, first of all, about what the reports are about and what was involved in creating it?
So the aim of this research, James, was really to understand what distinguishes B2B leaders in the context of lead generation. So for this the State of Lead Generation report published last year, we carried out a survey of several hundred B2B marketers. We sought to identify the best companies in terms of their lead gen based on the returns they were getting from their demand generation activities and also their ability to measure ROI. And then we looked at what these companies, the leaders, the B2B leaders, were doing differently from their peers, and were then able to make some recommendations in the report which we can talk about. And the great thing about the most recent research is that it was a follow-up on a similar study we carried out in 2017. So the most recent report we did in partnership with On24, the webinar platform. So we have trend data in there as well about the evolution of this discipline, if you like.
So you mentioned there about leaders then in the fields. So what is it then that leaders in lead generation are doing perhaps differently to their peers also in a similar role?
Yeah, we found some significant differences in the characteristics of leaders compared to their peers. So if you think of lead generation comprising a number of components, there's obviously the strategy you need to do this effectively. There is the content creation and production. There is the syndication of that research in terms of driving volume to your content assets and getting the quantity of leads you need. There's the capturing of the data. There's the transferring of data between different business systems, for example, from marketing automation to CRM. And then there's the measurement of success, the measurement of return on investment. And across those different areas, leaders were much more likely to be exhibiting good practice, I guess. So in terms of strategy, that's having an overall strategy with overall tactical elements of that feeding into a comprehensive and joined up plan. In terms of content production, it's about having an understanding of who your customers are, and within your customers what the different personas are within stakeholders within that business, and also where people are in the buying journey, and creating and targeting content with those elements in mind. So at different stages of the buying funnel, and also to different types of persona. And leaders also having good technology in place and processes in place to make sure that the data and leads that are being collected, to make sure that the right high quality level of information is there.
Mm-hmm. So are there any best practices that you feel are worth highlighting, that maybe the research has uncovered? What are the best practices?
Yeah, I mean, that's another good question. And one of the, I guess, the overarching elements in terms of good practice is having joined up marketing and sales departments. And that often means having a director level senior employee who has oversight of both those departments to ensure alignment. And we'll be discussing that a bit later on. It's also, as an example of that, it's important for marketing teams to be not just getting those leads, but also nurturing them, so that when there is that handover to sales departments, they've reached a level of lead quality and sort of tick certain boxes and match certain criteria. For example, being, those leads have the budget that's required, the decision-making authority, that kind of BANT thing, the time frame as well. So BANT's an acronym for the budget and various things like, as I said, like authority, etc. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good example of how leaders are doing things differently to their peers. They're sort of nurturing those leads effectively before that handover to sales.
So, are there any challenges then that the report uncovered that leaders and everyone else involved in B2B lead gen are facing? What are those major challenges?
Well, I mean, there's an array of challenges really that relate to those different components and parts of lead generation. So one I think is important to flag up is around getting high quality leads and the right volume of those leads in the first place. And that often, in order to overcome that challenge, it's really about having a very clear idea of who you're trying to target, again, as I mentioned, and in what part of the buying journey, and having great content to do that. And another challenge is around measuring return on investment. So that's about the business being able to track back from a sale to, I guess, attribute that sale to a lead generated by marketing. So marketing can then, I guess, build the case for further investment in lead generation, because unless success is being, and those leads are being tracked through to sale, it's very hard to understand what type of leads and what type of campaigns were effective in the first place.
So in that case, what would you recommend as a way of dealing with those challenges then in that sense? Is that anything that's covered in the report?
Yeah, I mean, as I've sort of touched upon there, in terms of getting good quality leads, there needs to be alignment between marketing and sales team around what is what a good lead looks like, and making sure that everyone's happy with the criteria in place. And as I say, I'm making sure that before marketing hands over the sales, the leads to sales, that lead nurturing is happening. It's about sales teams sharing data back with marketing and feedback on the quality of those leads, and the business being able to understand when there is a sale where that lead came from. Is it from lead generation? Leaders actually, we found from the research, almost half of their sales are being driven by leads, ultimately coming from leads driven online, so online lead generation for their peers, i.e. non-leaders. Less than a quarter of sales were attributed to leads generated originally by marketing departments. So the incentive is definitely there to be a B2B leader.
Now, with as you mentioned there, that most of these leads are coming from online. With regard to content, what discoveries did you find in regards to what's proving to be perhaps the most effective in helping generate leads within all of this? What's the most effective content?
Okay, so I mean, to recap from the research on the types of content asset that companies will typically be using for lead gen, there are some virtual events. I mean, physical events are really good for marketing and lead gen, and sometimes for sales. But in terms of the online environment, then webinars are found to be, if done well, effective for lead generation. There's also things like case studies and buyer's guides. So I guess as would-be buyers progress through the funnel and increase their knowledge and are closer to converting, something like a case study and buyer's guide can be a really useful asset for them, and leads to your company being very much part of the mix in their decision-making processes. And there are also things like white papers and research reports, which may be a kind of higher funnel type content for those who are quite new to the area, not yet close to buying, but educating themselves about the trends in the marketplace and what solutions are out there to address the challenges they have.
Nice.
And in terms of that's type of content asset. In terms of the most effective channels, email marketing. Email's been around a long time now, but is very much used in the context of marketing automation, and very good for I think nurturing leads, particularly. And I guess more for inbound marketing channels like search and social, in combination with good content marketing, is really effective for demand generation.
By the way, if anyone watching would like to put a question to Linus, we do have the power to do that because this is all a live show. If you have a question to put to Linus about lead generation, and we're going to get on in a second to lead conversion, then please do pop a question in the comments box. And actually, talking about lead conversion, that's understandably the next step in all of this. Your forthcoming reports then focuses on the state of B2B lead conversion. Have I got the title right there? What's the exact?
Yeah, so that's the new report coming out later this month is a strategic guide to lead conversion. So it's all very well generating those leads, but we wanted something best practice focused, again, actually on converting those leads. And that's something we did in partnership with our sister company, Demand Exchange, which is actually a B2B lead generation platform. So that will be a another co-branded report with London Research, and that's based on interviews of people really at the coalface of this stuff. So sales directors, heads of marketing, chief revenue officers as well, which has been an emerging role in the last few years. And a chief revenue officer will typically head up both a marketing and sales department to have that oversight and ability to make sure that those teams are aligned and pulling in the right direction.
I suppose related to that, how have you found the reception to these reports? Because I imagine these have got to be extremely valuable in terms of the insights that they're giving. What's the reaction that you've had to these?
Well, I mean, we've sent the forthcoming report. We have sent to a few people to get their feedback, and it's been the feedback's been really positive. And we held an event recently where we presented the research, and we had various senior people working mainly for marketing technology companies. The second report coming out this year is particularly focused on technology, and I think people realise that the challenges they face when they've read this report, they're not alone. These are things that are widespread within enterprise companies, small and medium businesses, to different vendors wrestling with similar challenges about how to align their teams, make sure they've got consistent metrics and KPIs, the right technology in place to capture leads, and most importantly, arguably, the really good content to get the interest of prospects.
So how have you found then the evolution of sales and marketing within B2B? What insights have you been able to gather in that regard?
Well, what we found is that within businesses, they're trying to, the leaders, if you like, they're trying to really evolve what their marketing teams are doing, and also what their sales teams are doing. And thirdly, how the marketing and sales teams are working in conjunction. So we've seen this evolution, if you like, of marketing teams from being the much disparaged sort of colouring in departments within businesses to being really at the cutting edge of commercial endeavours, where the data-driven marketing's going on, and marketing automation platforms are helping with this, and they're at the forefront of positioning their businesses as real sort of thought leaders and trusted advisors in a particular area of expertise, and sales departments taking a less kind of pushy approach to more of a consultative approach, where they're really understanding their customers and what their challenges are, and coming up with solutions and tailored solutions to address those challenges. So it's very much for leaders needs to be a two-pronged approach between sales and marketing, often led by someone like a chief revenue officer who has both business functions under his or her remit.
Is that right? So that's something that has been more of a thing, shall we say, then, if with the chief revenue officer pulling these to otherwise departments which previously have worked further apart, but now they're being drawn together, and that's the role of the revenue officer then?
It may be the chief revenue officer, it may be someone else, chief commercial officer, I guess, or even the CEO. But just making sure there is more alignment between those teams, transparency and feedback. Historically, there's been this issue where sales haven't necessarily really used much of the data coming from marketing departments. That prefer to rely on their own kind of black books that salespeople have, and just go after existing contacts. But as we've seen and discussed, for increasingly businesses are able to attribute more and more sales back to marketing departments, and that's through marketing departments understanding what type of leads are most likely to convert, and using the feedback from sales departments. But without that feedback and understanding of what leads are converting into sales, they can't improve their own processes.
This seems to be very much a recurring theme, actually, because we've had quite a few guests on the 414, and what seems to be the thing is that success very much is being attributed to when sales and marketing departments are no longer fighting, they're working together as a unit. And that's very interesting that that's been very much backed up by your report in speaking with these various company leaders.
Yeah, so it's really about bridging that gap between marketing and sales. And the right processes, the right business culture as well, and also the right technology is important. For example, can your marketing automation tool, are you able to integrate with your CRM, your lead generation platform, for example, Demand Exchange, that can feed data directly into marketing automation and CRM tools.
So let me pose one more question then, if I may, and that would be, what would be your recommendation based on your findings in the report for companies to carry on, not just succeeding, but really taking it to the next level with regard to their sales and marketing activities for B2B lead gen?
Good question. I think it's about having a really clear understanding through the business about what a good customer looks like. So what is your target market? Who is your target customer? And who are the personas within that business? So if everyone is agreed, including marketing and sales, you stand a much better chance of success, and the leads you do generate are more likely ultimately to convert into sales. As I've mentioned a couple of times, agreement on what, for example, a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead is, what boxes need to be ticked there in terms of qualifying criteria. Another recommendation would be around having good processes in place to make sure there's an iterative process to make sure that feedback is shared between different teams, and there's a general commitment to working towards greater collaboration and taking on board one another's feedback.
And finally then, we definitely need to let viewers and listeners know where they can get hold of this report. So what's the best way to get hold of the report?
Well, we'll be pushing that report through Digital Donut, which is a third company within Communitize. So there's London Research, Demand Exchange, and Digital Donut. That will also be available from London Research in due course, and it will be free to download. No registration will be required. So please do look out for that strategic guide to lead conversion coming out soon. And also you can already find on London Research the State of B2B Lead Generation report done in partnership with On24, and various articles on Digital Donut.
Perfect. Linus, thank you very much for setting us off in the right direction, I think, for the year 2020 ahead. Linus Gregoriadis from London Research, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, James. And thanks for those who've tuned in.
And if you've enjoyed watching and you'd like to learn more insights and wisdom each and every week from some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing, then please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, search for the 414 on there, or on your favourite podcasting app, search for the 414 on there too. There we go. So there we go. My name's James Rostance, and we'll see you here same time next week for another edition of the 414.